Nobody expected this to happen on the AAA stage. The moment SB19 stepped forward, the atmosphere changed instantly. This wasn't a performance made to please. It was a performance that forced attention. Cameras lingered. The room went still. Even K-pop idols, veterans of countless award shows, couldn't look away. In just minutes, SB19 didn't just perform, they shifted the balance of power. And what happened next is why this stage will be remembered for years. Like, share, and subscribe for stories the industry can't ignore. The Asia Artist Awards is not just another stop on the awards season calendar. It's one of the most hierarchy-driven stages in Asian pop culture, a space where reputation matters as much as performance. AAA is traditionally dominated by top-tier K-pop acts, carefully positioned through years of industry backing, media exposure, and global fandom power. This stage doesn't experiment. It confirms status. It reinforces who belongs at the top and who is merely passing through. That's why non-Korean acts rarely receive more than polite applause here. Talent alone isn't enough. If you don't come from the system, the assumption is simple. You're here, but you're not equal. Many artists have performed well on this stage and still walked away invisible. AAA has a quiet history of humbling performers who couldn't meet its unspoken standards. Going into this night, expectations for SB19 were cautious at best, respectful but limited, a guest, a regional act, something interesting but not threatening. Yet beneath that surface was enormous pressure. SB19 wasn't just performing for themselves, they were carrying the weight of P-pop on a stage that had never truly opened its doors to it. One misstep would confirm every doubt. One weak moment would justify every bias. This is why what happened next mattered so much. Because AAA doesn't reward potential. It only responds to undeniable presence. In the days leading up to AAA, the conversation around SB19 was carefully restrained. Media coverage was polite, almost cautious. Headlines focused on attendance, not impact. Representation, not domination. There was praise, but it carried an unspoken ceiling. The industry wasn't asking how big SB19's moment would be. It was asking how survivable it would be. Behind the scenes, skepticism lingered. Not loud enough to quote, but clear enough to feel. Could they command the room? Could they hold attention in a lineup stacked with industry giants? Could they perform without being compared, minimized, or dismissed? These were the questions floating silently through press rooms and production meetings. Fans felt it too. Excitement mixed with tension. Pride tangled with worry. Because fans understood what was at stake. This wasn't just another performance slot. It was a test. A moment where everything SB19 had built would be judged in minutes, not years. And hovering over all of it was the quiet, uncomfortable question no one wanted to say out loud. Can they really stand here? Not as guests, not as representatives, but as equals. That pressure doesn't show on a schedule. It doesn't appear in rehearsal clips. But when the lights are seconds away from turning on, it becomes crushing. And that's exactly where SB19 stood, on the edge of expectation and doubt, right before everything changed. The lights dropped, and for a brief second, the arena held its breath. Not the excited noise of anticipation, but a quiet, observant silence. Then SB19 appeared. No dramatic pause. No forced build-up, just immediate presence. The opening beats landed with precision, and their formation locked in so clean it felt intentional, almost surgical. From the first movement, their body language said everything. They weren't here to impress. They were here to claim space. As the performance unfolded, the camera cuts began to shift. What started as wide, cautious shots tightened into close-ups. Faces, expressions, control. You could see the crowd leaning in, phones lowering, eyes fixed. That's when the room changed. The silence didn't mean boredom, it meant focus. And then came the explosion. cheers breaking out mid-performance, reactions no one planned for, heads turning, whispers between seats. There was a precise moment when attention fully flipped. Not during the biggest move, but during a quieter beat, when their confidence stayed unbroken and the performance didn't beg for approval. That's when it stopped feeling like a guest stage. There was no, let's see how they do energy anymore. It became, oh, this is serious. By the final sequence, the atmosphere was unmistakable. This wasn't polite applause. This was recognition. SB19 didn't ask for the room. They took it, and everyone knew it. What made this performance land wasn't just technical skill, it was control without coldness. Every move was sharp, but never empty. Precision didn't erase emotion, it amplified it. You could feel intention behind every step, every glance, every breath taken between lines. Nothing looked rushed, nothing looked over-rehearsed. It felt lived in, like something earned through years of pressure. Vocally, this was where skepticism quietly died. Live conditions expose everything: fatigue, nerves, imbalance. Yet SB19 held their ground, stable, grounded, confident. Not perfect in a polished artificial way, but real, present. The kind of control that comes from knowing your limits and commanding them anyway. What truly separated this stage, though, was identity. There was no dilution, no attempt to soften edges to fit a mold. The performance carried cultural weight without explanation, pride without performance. It didn't imitate trends. It stood beside them. So when people say this stage felt different, they're right. It wasn't louder. It wasn't flashier. It was honest. And in a space full of formulaic perfection, honesty cuts through like a blade. This wasn't imitation. It was identity. And the room felt it. The real shift didn't happen on stage. It happened in the audience. Cameras began catching things that couldn't be choreographed: widened eyes, slow nods, half smiles that appeared before people realized they were on screen. These weren't exaggerated reactions meant for fans. They were instinctive, unfiltered, the kind that slip out when something genuinely surprises you. And that's why these moments mattered. Fan praise is powerful, but it's expected. Fans want to believe. Idols, on the other hand, are trained observers. They know how hard it is to command a stage under pressure. They recognize control, stamina, and authenticity instantly. When they start watching closely, when they stop chatting, stop checking phones, stop reacting on cue, that's respect. What made this moment viral wasn't cheering or applause. It was the silence. A focused, attentive quiet that said more than screaming ever could. The kind of silence where people lean forward instead of back, where reactions are internal before they become visible. There was no announcement, no grand statement, just a shared realization passing through the room. They're not outsiders. They're not guests. They belong here. That acknowledgement didn't need words. It showed in posture, in eye contact, in attention that never wavered. And once that recognition happened, there was no undoing it. That's why these clips spread. Because respect, when captured in real time, is impossible to fake and impossible to ignore. SB19's AAA moment didn't just impress, it challenged. And that's where things get uncomfortable, because this performance quietly questioned some long-standing assumptions in Asian pop culture: who gets to be taken seriously, who gets access, and who is allowed to stand on certain stages without explanation. For years, geography has acted as a gatekeeper. Not officially, not openly, but effectively. Talent from outside the dominant system often has to work twice as hard for half the recognition. SB19 didn't argue against that system. They simply performed in a way that made it impossible to maintain those boundaries without looking dishonest. This wasn't about replacing anyone. It wasn't about competition framed as conflict. It was about exposure. When a performance this strong comes from outside the expected pipeline, it disrupts comfortable narratives. It forces the industry to confront an inconvenient truth. Excellence isn't exclusive to one country, one language, or one system. That realization makes people defensive, and it also makes them talk. Some celebrate it, some question it, some resist it, but no one ignores it. And that's why this moment sparked discussion instead of fading away. This isn't an attack, it's reality catching up. And once reality steps on stage, pretending not to see it becomes the hardest act of all. Most award show performances disappear the moment the lights come back on. They live for a night, trend for a few hours, and then quietly fade into playlists and highlight reels. But every once in a while, a performance does something different. It marks a before and after. SB19's AAA stage belongs in that rare category. This moment won't be erased because it wasn't built on spectacle alone. It was built on proof. Proof that presence can outweigh pedigree. Proof that preparation can silence bias. Proof that an artist doesn't need permission to belong if they are undeniable. These are the performances people reference later, not because they were flashy, but because they changed expectations. Years from now, when conversations turn to the rise of P-pop on international stages, this performance will be pulled up again. Not as a starting point, but as a turning point. Future acts will study it, not to copy it, but to understand how confidence, identity, and discipline can coexist under pressure. A blueprint was quietly written that night. No press release, no manifesto, just a message delivered through movement, voice, and control. This is how you stand on a global stage without shrinking yourself. Legacy doesn't arrive overnight, but every legacy has a spark. And this was one of them. Moments like this don't always come with immediate rewards, but they change conversations behind closed doors. After a performance like that, doors don't swing open loudly. They unlock quietly. Industry executives start paying closer attention. Festival organizers reconsider lineups. Media narratives shift from emerging to established. That's the real impact of credibility. For SB19, this AAA stage marked a transition, not into comfort, but into pressure. Because once you've proven you belong, expectations rise instantly. The margin for error narrows. Every next move is watched more closely, judged more sharply. But with that pressure comes respect, the kind that can't be taken away by one off night or one bad headline. Internationally, the perception changed. SB19 is no longer framed solely as representatives of P-pop, but as contenders within a broader Asian pop conversation. That distinction matters. It affects opportunities, collaborations, and how future performances are received before the first note is even played. Now, the next step matters more than ever, not because they need to prove themselves again, but because momentum demands direction. This is the stage where careers either level up or stall. SB19 has crossed the introduction phase. What comes next will determine how far this moment truly reaches. That night at the Asia Artist Awards can be summed up in one sentence. SB19 didn't chase validation, they became impossible to ignore. This was never about trophies, rankings, or screen time. It was about presence. About standing on a stage known for measuring worth and walking away having shifted the scale itself. Winning fades. Being undeniable doesn't. So now I want to ask you directly, did you feel it too? That moment when the room changed. When reactions stopped feeling polite and started feeling real. When it no longer mattered where they came from, only what they delivered. Because if you felt that shift, you weren't imagining it. You were witnessing a turning point. And here's where the conversation matters. Do you think this performance changes how P-pop is viewed on global stages? Does it challenge how the industry decides who belongs at the top? Or was this just the beginning of something much bigger? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear every perspective, not just praise. If this breakdown gave you insight you won't find in highlight clips, hit like to push this story further. Share it with someone who still doubts what happened that night. And subscribe, because moments like this deserve more than a reaction. They deserve to be remembered. History doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it performs.